Thank you for coming. Again, it's 11:30 on a Tuesday before Thanksgiving. What did I know? I thought we'd get 10, 20 people out here. What is going on? Ain't that the truth? Let me repeat the point. A lot of folks aren't working. That's part of what's going on. Welcome.
Excuse me, folks, we can't see.
Yeah, hey guys, there's room right back in here. Come sit down by me. We're going to begin. Hey, we're going to have a fascinating next hour and a half. Aaron, any staff, and don't anybody jump when I ask for this. Congressman would love a cup of coffee. Just one. Yeah. Small. Decaf. Irish coffee. That'll be for tonight. Hold on. Yeah, sit on the floor, sit by me. Here's what we're going to do, folks. Again, most of you know that I made a pledge when I got elected that there would be no member of Congress that does this more with his or her constituents than me. I'm not going to stop. I appreciate you so much coming out. We do these everywhere. I love to do these in local establishments because typically we can help this local establishment make a few bucks because that's what America's all about. So don't hesitate to order a coffee or an Irish coffee or anything in between. Don't stand because we're too crowded. But, where'd John go? Do you have that flag pin on? Come stand by me. What? Oh, that's a better flag. Come here. Ignore whatever he's chewing.
John will now voice me up.
Okay. No. Here is our flag. Let's begin as we always do with a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, Lee, make sure that I've got water and coffee and alcohol.
Regular, right?
Good job.
Do I have to get down?
Yes.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you. I will. Again, the second most important thing we do at the beginning of all of our town halls, look, you've heard me say this before. The country's going through something, folks, right now that we haven't gone through in a long, long time. I think it's a good thing. Let's never, ever forget, though, before we start to debate, before we start to have an argument, before we start to discuss things, let's not forget Republican, Democrat, Independent, Liberal, Conservative, I don't care what you think you are, agree on this or respectfully leave the room. This is the greatest country in the history of this planet. And it is that way for a lot of reasons. It is that way chiefly because men and women have given their blood for this country. Men and women have died for this country. Men and women have worn the uniform to give me the opportunity to do this, to give you the opportunity to get this close and talk to your congressman. If you have worn the uniform and served this country, raise your hand or stand up and be recognized. Thank you. Give me a few minutes, let me talk about a couple things, and then we'll jump into what we're going to jump into, which is mostly you all sounding off, you all expressing your opinions, answering questions, asking questions, whatever you want to do. And again, don't hesitate. I love this place. Part of the fun of being a congressman is you're always busy and you're always on the road, but you get to stop at local establishments whenever you want. This is one of my haunts, so do not hesitate to order things to eat and drink. Look, for those of you who have been to my town halls, really I don't have many rules. I've got one rule, one real important rule, and it's one word, it's called respect. I genuinely hope and pray that we've got all viewpoints in this restaurant today. You've heard me say this. I don't want there to be a member of Congress that does this more than I do. Most members of Congress don't like to do this. It's a pain in the butt, right? You got to get with your constituents. You got to, you can point your finger in my face. Do most members of Congress really want to put up with that? Heck no. Every word, let me tell you something. Do you guys know that virtually every word I say can be taped and put on video and audio? Yeah. You guys know that? And it can be up on YouTube like that? Did you guys know that? Yeah. That typically scares the dickens out of politicians. We don't want every single one of our words, everything we say, to be used out there against me. I'm only a freshman in Congress. I don't know better. And you know what? I don't care. I decided to run for Congress 2 years ago because I truly believe in my bones we are close to losing this greatest country in the history of the planet. And it means that much to me that I put myself out there all the time. But these don't work. These town halls don't work if we don't respect each other. I'm the first to go over the line too many times. And when I go over the line and I don't respect the president or a fellow Democrat or somebody in my town hall, man, slap me over the head. And if I catch myself, I apologize. Respect every opinion in this room, or these don't work. This is democracy at work. We've got, how old are you? 11. We've got young kids in here right now. No school today.
Civics class.
Hey, civics class. Oh, I have to be really good then. We've got all ages in this room. I hope we have all political opinions in this room. Hey, the stakes are too high. The country is teetering right now. Let's respect everybody's opinion. I don't question anybody in here who wants what's best for the country. We disagree on what we need to do, but respect everybody's opinion. This is democracy at work. That's the only rule.
More congressmen, okay.
Well, Republican and Democrat, we sure do. Hey, I'm gonna spout off about a couple things. Thing number one. I've said some things lately about this Occupy Wall Street stuff. I won't take back anything I say. I hope that that's part of what we talk about today. I believe that this Occupy Wall Street, these protests, are well-orchestrated, well-funded efforts by the left, I believe, just my opinion, to disrupt things, to disrupt commerce, to disrupt, to be a diversion, to disrupt the American way of life. I think the, hold on, let me finish. We'll get to it. I think the president has known about it. I think he's kind of encouraging it. I think Democrats like to encourage it. I think you're going to see that encouragement dwindle day by day as these protests continue to get violent and ugly. I look at what they advocate, and it's hard sometimes to discern what they're advocating, but I've read stuff and I've tried to pay attention. I think I got a little bit of an idea of what they advocate, and I think it's pie in the sky, unrealistic, unworkable, and yes, un-American solutions. That's just my opinion, and I want to hear other opinions. Second point I'm going to make. Your country made history last week. Your country made history last week. We passed $15 trillion in debt. Now, I don't know what $15 trillion means, but here's something I know. If you take every family in the country, that means right now every family in the country owes about $200,000 to our debt. Every family in this country. This one kills me. Should we say a moment of silence for the super committee?
That was a waste of our money.
The super committee didn't seem to work out. There were some of us at the beginning who just said, again, I'm no expert, I'm just a freshman in Congress. I didn't like the idea from the beginning, but it didn't work out. But here's a number that's interesting. Since the super committee was enacted, back at about the end of August, middle end of August, your country has added $700 billion to our debt since the super committee's been meeting. Folks, again, liberal, conservative, Democratic, Republican, here's what your country has done this year. If your country was a family of 4 living in Wauconda, here's what that family did this year. Forget trillions. When we hear trillions, I don't know about you, but my eyes glaze over. So don't think trillions. Think of your federal government as a family living in Wauconda. Here's what they did. That family of 4 made $21,000 this year. Tough year. The family of 4 in Wauconda only made 21 grand. That same family of 4 spent about $35,000 to $36,000 this year. So that family of 4 in Wauconda, and I don't know how they did it, they made 21, they spent about 34 or 35. I don't know how they get by. Here's the kicker. Remember, this is your federal government. That family of 4 living in Wauconda that made 21 grand, spent 35 or 6 grand, has an outstanding credit card bill of about $144,000. That's what your federal government did this year. Now, I would argue it'd be a heck of a lot worse if Republicans hadn't come to the House. I can guarantee that. And look, nobody hits both parties over the head like I do. Republicans, if you leave them alone, are too inclined to spend money. I know for certain if you leave Democrats alone, they're going to spend money like there's no tomorrow. So I'm not excusing either party. That's what your federal government did this year. And it's going to be worse next year. Forget trillions. This country's broke. And if we don't do something about it, and that's why I think it's good because we're all wound up. If we don't do something about it, I fear for the country. What's your first name? Benjamin is going to be indulted. That's what this is all about. That's what I would argue was behind the Tea Party movement rising up 3 or 4 years ago. That's what sent people like me to Congress a year ago. That's why that's why I said when I ran, and I've been saying every day since I've been a congressman, my job in D.C. is to scream from the mountaintop. Maybe that's not everybody else's job, but I consider it mine. I consider it to be mine. We've got 2 to 3 to 4 years to get this thing right, or Benjamin and his generation will never forgive us. Shame on us. Let me close there. We've got a mic, so Corey is going to walk around. Again, express a thought, ask a question. Let's try to be as engaging and respectful as we can be about anything. Raise them up. Corey, all the way in the back. And I'll hit me over the head, guys, if I don't look around.
Hi, Joe. Randy Collins.
Randy, hello.
I think my concern is pretty much the same as everybody's, but I think a lot of people don't realize the root cause of our problem is our budget. And I want to put some numbers in perspective that bother me considerably. From the U.S. National Debt Clock website, it shows we have 110 million taxpayers in this country. Let's just say that's about half of the country, first of all. Secondly, there's 21 million government employees. That means that 1 out of every 5 of us is a government employee. If they make better wages, get better pension and better health care that benefits the rest of us, how are we possibly going to pay the bills on our government? And that 1 in 5 ratio is what bothers me the most. I have a proposal. Go back to the last budget that Congress had, which is about 3 years ago, and take a 20% cut across that budget, okay, and then, as a compromise, allow taxation of the rich who are not paying any taxes at all right now. Try that as a compromise proposal. That's my suggestion.
Thank you. Hey, and folks, if anybody's not comfortable and you're looking for a place to sit, we've got seats over here. And again, you can come sit by me on the floor. Look, when I say the following, and then I'll give to you at the bar, sir. When I say the following, sometimes it makes some of my colleagues in D.C. uncomfortable. Because politicians don't talk this way. Again, I don't know any better. I do believe the country's going through a revolution right now. I've said that before. I've said it a bunch. Here's what it's about. For years, we've been asleep at the wheel. It's not really all of our fault. But we've lived our lives. We've tried to make a buck. We've tried to make a living. We've tried to raise our kids. We've tried to have enough money to go on vacation. We coach our kids in soccer. We've tried to live our lives. And every 2 or 4 years there's an election. And let's be honest, we really don't pay enough. We really didn't pay enough attention. So most of us would vote, but actually many years most of us wouldn't vote. But we'd go to the poll every 2 or 4 years. We would typically vote for the name we sort of knew. And then we'd go back and live our lives. The problem is, we've done that for the last 50, 60 years. And every single year, government has gotten bigger. And it's like all of a sudden we woke up a couple years ago after this long slumber and realized, oh my God, we're broke. We have a government we can't afford. And we stomped our feet and we said, how did it get that way? And we went after all those bad politicians. Now look, yeah, we do elect a lot of people who haven't made the tough decisions for a long, long time. But don't let yourselves off the hook. Who sent people to Washington year after year? Who keeps sending people to Springfield year after year? We have to be honest with ourselves that we've been asleep at the wheel. What this revolution is about, Randy, is basically the size of government. We are having Thomas Jefferson would be so damn proud of us. We are having a real debate on the kind of government we want. And I would argue that we've got a government right now that we can't afford. It's too big and it's killing our freedom. And it's, again, it's not just President Obama that did this to us. Republicans have helped do this to us. So yeah, we got to somehow get back to a world where that big thing called government isn't as big. And we get to keep more of our money, all of us, rich, middle class, and poor. Because I'm one of those politicians that believes it is your money, rich, middle class, or poor. I don't want the government doing that much, but it's going to take a while to get there. So your Republicans have gone there. Last year, we went there to try to begin to cut down what government does. We've done an okay job, not a great job. The other thing we have to do, though, is grow this economy out here, because we're dying. The economy out here is suffocating. And again, we all may have a difference of opinion. I think the reason the economy's dying is, again, because government's sitting on it. Government is sitting on it. Most people out here are overregulated. They're scared to death. They feel overtaxed. Hey, look, let's be honest. Who's made out like bandits the last couple of years? Politicians. Well, besides politicians. Big banks, right? The big banks, big wealthy people. Those people have done all right. You know why? Because they can write out all this stuff. When the economy tanks, when the country really goes through an upheaval, we all feel it. But the big banks, by the way, that we bailed out, by the way, that if I were in Congress, I wouldn't have bailed out the big banks. But the big banks are doing fine. Wealthy people, Warren Buffett, he can spout off all he wants because none of this impacts him. They can all pay the lawyers and the accountants to find every loophole in the book, and they come out smelling like a rose. It's the rest of us that get killed. And we're all dying out here. And you know who's dying? And by the way, I can say this because I'm probably the poorest member of Congress. So I can say this. We're all dying. We're all dying because our government's too big and it's killing us. And these Occupy Wall Street knuckleheads, what do they want? They want more government. That's all they want is more government. That's not the answer. The answer is freedom. The answer is it's our money. We take care of our own lives. We take care of our own families. Let us live our lives. At the bottom.
Well,
Welcome.
my name's Ed Rody from Island Lake, Joe. I got a question for you. What do you think of Governor Perry's idea that everybody in Congress becomes a part-time employee and we cut your salaries in half to start this thing and turn everything around?
In a nanosecond. In a nanosecond. I love it.
You say that, but what happens? Who's going to do it?
Boy, you're tough to really work with, aren't you?
You guys vote for the laws, okay? You're not going to cut your salary. You may cut ours, but you're not going to cut yours. That's for sure.
Well, hey, you know what? You're right. Let me tell you what I've done, because I agree with it. I agree with you. And I love it when people say you guys, because go to Washington. Most of those guys don't like me. You're right. Look at Texas. The Texas state legislature meets once every 2 years. I tend to believe the more we're in Washington, the more trouble we're up to. I tend to believe the more we're in Washington, the bigger government gets. But look, my friend from Island Lake, I agree with you. It's going to take a few elections to really make a difference. I'm one guy. And so I went to Washington in January. You know what I did, Ed? I said, I'm a term limit guy. I'm only serving 6 years because I don't believe in professional politicians.
Will you put that in writing?
I did. I put that in writing. And by the way, I went one step further.
Yeah, you definitely have it now because it's going to be on YouTube. That's great.
No.
That's one of the problems in this country. How the hell do we stop these people from making a career out of being a politician? Our founding fathers did not set this country up for these people to make a career out of it. Most of them, they looked and said, you have gentlemen farmers come in, you do this for maybe 2 times and that's it, and somebody else comes in. These people spout this stuff out, and then they find out how nice it is. They don't want it to leave. And they screw things up, and they all become very wealthy over it, and now they don't know what the hell it's like to be a
You mean like Pastor who goes in poor and comes out $10 million?
That's it.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. How can you get away with that?
Did you see the thing in the Sunshine the other day?
Insider trading and all the rest of it?
Maybe Joe's poor compared to the rest of them. But
I
there's
do
like
know
250 or 28 millionaires in Congress, and the rest of them are all somewhere close to that.
Right. Well, how do you go in poor and come out of $10 million?
Well, that's
How do you do
the big
that?
thing. It's like, how the hell?
Hey, you know how you do it? Here's how you do it. No, and you're right. They both do it. You know, I feel like you're a plant. I feel like you and I have lived together for the last 20 years. I'm with you. You know, I went through hell to get elected. And I said during the campaign that if you elect me, I'm only serving 6 years. If you elect me, I'm sleeping in my office. If you elect me, I'm coming home every damn weekend and having town halls, even if I don't want to. If you elect me, I'm turning down my health benefits. If you elect me, I'm turning down my pension. And when I said that during the campaign, how many people believed me? And I would say, besides you, but you've been drinking. No, but you know what I said? I said I wouldn't believe me. Because I don't believe politicians. But, respectfully, I've done it all. So I'm not taking a health care. I'm not taking retirement. There's no way I'll be in Congress longer than 6 years. I taught American government. I believe exactly what you're saying. This is not what our founders wanted. You know, they envisioned, you know what our founders thought? Civics lesson, Benjamin? Our founders thought it should be a temporary sacrifice to go serve. Think about that. A temporary sacrifice. Now Republican, Democrat, they go there, they enrich themselves, they stay there too long, they become different than us. But now, let me make one point. We have helped let this happen. Because I'll admit, I think the country's woken up. Because most of the country now feels like you do. But it wasn't this way 3 or 4 years ago. We just kept voting for, he's a Republican, Phil Crane. We just kept voting for whatever name we knew. And we didn't think about it. John McCain, we just, keep sending people like that to Congress. They've been there too long.
Why not put them on a 401k instead of paying them all the money they sneaked in the races with other?
Well, I don't think they should get any pension. Period. Because again, I believe it should be a temporary job.
I agree with you.
What were you going to say?
How about your legislation?
Oh, so 2 months ago, I introduced term limits legislation. I wrote a bill.
Oh, I must have gone over like
No. Well, yeah, guess how many co-sponsors I got? Actually, not bad. 9. But
Well, you brought up,
that's a victory.
you brought up Phil Crane. I ran into him over here at the drugstore the last time he was running against me.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, why should I vote for you? All I heard was political rhetoric. This man was as clueless as it could be as to what all he was doing was spout the same crap he spouted for all those years. Because he liked being where he was at. And I like what you're saying because you're someone that's not... You're telling us what we want to hear. I hope it's all...
No,
We want you to do it, not just tell us, do it.
No, but, well, I can tell you this. Here's the secret. I can tell you this. The Republican establishment in Washington, after what I've said and done the last year, there is no doubt that they'd like to get rid of me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because I did not go there to be a good, loyal Republican who just does what he says. When I ran, I hit both parties over the head. Look, neither party typically understands what's going on. They don't understand how angry people are. What's your first name?
Steve.
Steve. The way Steve talks, that's the way I talked and the way most people I knew talked during the campaign. I think it's still there. We are upset because it's like we have a whole different species in Washington.
Royalty.
So what's the answer? The only answer is, because I'm not going to get my term limits legislation passed. So what's the answer? The only answer is to send more people like me, Republican or Democrat, to Washington who are going to totally shake things up.
Do you have any partners and believers in what you say right now in politics?
There are about 20 of us in Washington.
Yeah, can you send them to us? Let us know who they are.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a small group right now. Even among Republicans, it's a small group of guys who are there to totally do what they said they were going to do, no matter what their leadership tells them. Look, I was one of 22 Republicans 3 days before that debt ceiling deal that voted against my very own leader's final compromise. And I'm telling you, toughest vote I ever made, because they can pound you. They can pound you. But at the end of the day, I couldn't do it because it just didn't do anything.
Vote your conscience. That's what we want.
At the end of the day, I had to vote my conscience. But most guys aren't like that. But so the answer is to send more guys that are like that to Washington. Who's got one? Yes, ma'am. Behind me. Shout it out and I'll repeat it.
My name's Kathy, and I was wondering why it's become so difficult for those with disabilities and handicaps to receive their benefits.
Kathy, has it become? Give her back the mic for a second, Corey. Has it become more difficult recently? Have you noticed a change? Has it gotten worse?
Yeah, I've noticed a change, but and most prevalently in the last, say, year and a half.
What, and specifically, what sort of things have you been seeing? What's been?
Well, there seems to be a lot more red tape and a lot more denial of benefits and hoops that families have to jump through when you have a handicapped child or a disabled child, or if you're a disabled or handicapped adult. The Wauconda office, which all these people would have to go through in this area, is severely dysfunctional. And it's really difficult for people that have these problems to count on their government and their disabilities checks, which are minimal and almost hard to live on. And yet they're taken away, and when that happens, I think these people, and they're in the worst shape. They have disabilities and handicaps. They lose their homes, they lose their medical, they lose everything. They become homeless.
Yeah.
And why is it? Why has that become so difficult?
Here's why. Thank you, Kathy. Grab that mic from her, will you? Kathy, thank you. Specifically, one of the reasons, especially when it comes to health care, that things have gotten so bad in the last year or two is because there is such fear and uncertainty outside of government and within government about this thing called Obamacare. I can't tell you enough. We all got angry. Maybe we all didn't get angry. The folks that did not support Obamacare a couple years ago, they got angry because it was a 2,100-page bill. That's ridiculous, right? You got to read it. That's too long. That's crazy. Folks, there's about 6,000 pages worth of regulations right now that make that bill look like nothing, just solely devoted to Obamacare. I continue to hear from people and businessmen that in the last year or two, they're dealing with red tape, with healthcare, but with other government agencies like they've never dealt with before. They're dealing with new regulations like they've never dealt with before. Some manufacturer up in Antioch is telling me about, God, I'm forgetting the number, 80-some new OSHA regs that he's got to deal with in the last year and a half. I am probably one of the poorest members of Congress. I'd be absolutely loaded, wealthy, if I had a nickel for every time a businessman told me that all the new paperwork they're dealing with in the last year or two when it comes to government regulations. Part of the problem, Kathy, is this. I'm a guy that doesn't want my government doing a lot. I believe in a government that does a little bit and do it really well. I want my government being a safety net. When it comes to health care, I want my government being the absolute safety net to take care of those who can't take care of themselves. The problem, Kathy, and so they should deal with people like that. People with disabilities, veterans, the real poor and needy. That's who I want my government always being there for. But again, this is your fault and my fault, because we have created a country where we want government taking care of health care for everybody. And so the truly needy get stuck. Look at Medicare, folks. We got to be honest with each other. Look at Medicare. Medicare came into existence in the 1960s to be a safety net. A safety net for them is it's no longer serving the needy.
Also, had $60 billion in fraud last year.
The number's higher.
Yeah.
There's also there's $60 billion worth of Medicare fraud in Florida alone. So hey.
So where's the problem?
So hey.
So where's the problem?
Well,
Run by the government. Run by the government.
well, no.
Hire more people to run it.
They're two very separate programs. So to me, the answer is, and this is what our country's been putting off. Folks, you can get rid of the Department of Defense tomorrow if you want. You can send our boys and girls home from Afghanistan tomorrow. I want to get rid of the Federal Department of Education. Do that tomorrow. That could be the president. Get rid of those oil subsidies. You can cut government wherever you want to cut. But you will not change how broke we are as a country, and you're not going to change the trajectory we're on unless this country figures out how to pay for health care for all of us who are living longer and longer. And this is a good thing, guys, right? You know, we used to live till we're 50, 60, 72. Now, in America, we're playing golf when we're 94. Right? And we got new hips, new knees. We got the best of everything. But who's going to pay for it? Because again, if we don't have that talk, there'll be nothing around for Benjamin. We all got to grow up and have that
But we
talk.
paid for it when they took it out of our.
Well, you did, but
But I didn't ask for it, but they took it.
I-
So therefore,
Yeah.
I deserve to get it because they took it.
It's
And they
still
spent
taking-
it whichever way they spent it.
absolutely, and I can't argue with you about that. You're right. Same thing with Social Security. You're right. But let me give you let me throw a couple stats your way.
They're taking Medicare out of your Social Security checks that you get every month.
Again, typical piles of money where politicians have been stealing
Right.
for years. I hear you on all that. But I hear you on all that, and you're entitled to it because you put into it. But here's the problem we got. The average guy or gal, the average recipient of Medicare right now is getting about 3.5 times back what they put into it. Okay? That's okay. We got 10 to 12,000 baby boomers retiring a day. We can't sustain that. So even the Republicans are so afraid of this issue that if you're 55 or older, nothing changes, we said. And I didn't think that was right. I think if you're 55 or older, it should change a little bit for all of us. But the Republicans were so afraid to touch Medicare. And, oh, and by the way, you know why, right? Because the minute we passed the Ryan plan, the Paul Ryan Medicare plan, what happened that day when the Republicans passed the Ryan plan? The Democrats put up a commercial showing a Paul Ryan lookalike pushing a grandmother in a wheelchair off the cliff. That's our politics. Now, it's not only the Democrats that do this. The Republicans do the same thing. We're not serious enough about this issue. And that was my biggest beef with this crazy thing called the Super Committee.
Yeah.
And I know I said a lot of things the last 2 months that people, not you, people back in D.C. weren't happy with. I said from day one I thought it was a stupid idea. That's what you pay us for.
Should the super committee be civilians and not politicians?
Well, let me just correct that.
Bankers?
He asked me if the super committee should have been 12 civilians instead of 12 congressmen and women. I'll answer that. I'll give you a little bit of a dodge, but I'll answer it. I think that your politicians should be civilians. I think next year we should elect 535 average Joes and Jills and send them to Washington. What was it? Who had the great line? I think it was William F. Buckley. If you took the first, 50 years ago, he said, if you took the first 435 names out of the Boston phone book and sent them to Congress, you'd do better than what we do. Yes, ma'am, right there. Corey.
Hi, my name is Beth Brown Stephen. I'm from Grace Lake, and I want to make a question.
Give it up for Grace Lake!
I want to make a comment and then ask a question. First of all, you put the onus on us for who we vote for, but we don't have anybody decent to vote for. Seriously.
Yes.
When it came to the last presidential election, we had Obama and we had McCain. There was nobody to vote for.
Exactly.
You were screwed either way you went.
You know what? But you're going to keep the mic. Stop. I'm going to answer that. Because this one gets me too. I need another cup of coffee. No, this one gets me. Because you're right. Here's the problem, though. For any of you who followed my campaign, do you remember what I had to go through? I basically, and I was trying to be as honest as I could. Financially, in many ways, I had no business running. But I said, here I am, I'm Joe Walsh. I've struggled financially. Went through a divorce 6 years ago. I lost a home 3 years ago. And away I went. I put myself out there. And every single day that I ran, it's like you walk around naked. And everybody gets to look at every ward going back to high school. So you know the reason that we get a McCain versus Obama? And you know the reason that we're not really always happy with our congressmen and women? We wish we had better people running. The problem is, raise your hand in this restaurant if you would have gone through what Joe Walsh went through last year and opened up your life, warts and all, for the world to see. Who would have done that? You guys are brave souls. 7 or 8. Most good people, the best and the brightest in this country, wouldn't think about doing what I did. Oh, because this is what you think about. Wait a minute. I had that one night stand 8 years ago. That might come out. Oh, wait a minute, I think my brother hired an illegal immigrant to cut his grass 15 years ago. Oh my gosh, that might come out. Oh, wait a minute, my dad declared bankruptcy 15 years ago. That's going to come out. Everything comes out. And most people say, I don't want to open up my life to that. So, short answer, if you want to get better people to run, we better not pay attention to all this personal crap. We better just say, what in God's name can you do for the country? Go ahead, you're second. You still got the mic, my dear.
Okay, so my question is, with all this, financial and health care and everything else going on in Washington, why is it that Congress is so worried about not letting gays get married, or taking away abortion rights? It's a free country. Or why not allowing medical marijuana for people who have cancer and are suffering and can't eat? Why are they worried about taking away those rights when those rights don't even affect our economy? Gay marriage doesn't affect our economy. People having abortions doesn't affect our economy.
Let me answer it. Great question. Let me answer it. Great question. I can tell you honestly, I've been in Congress now 11 months. 99.5% of what we talk about in Washington and 99.8% of what people talk about back home, and maybe 90% of the bills we pass or don't pass in Washington, all have to do with jobs, spending, and the economy. You are probably the third or fourth person in the last 2 years that's even brought up gay marriage to me. I got to tell you respectfully, my dear, I don't hear people talking, Republicans or Democrats, about these issues. In the House, we've passed 22 jobs bills. I bet people don't know about that because we do a lousy job telling people we did that. I can tell you, Republicans and Democrats in Washington, all we fight about are jobs, the economy, and spending. I don't hear anybody talking about gay marriage. Early on, we voted to defund Planned Parenthood. Absolutely, just like we need to defund a lot of things. But in general, all we talk about are jobs, the economy, and spending. And again, you are probably the third person that's brought up gay marriage to me in 2 years.
But when you take away Planned Parenthood, then we have to fund more money for social services.
Well, that's another interesting discussion, but I wanted to really go at your point. I hear this, those Republicans, they talk about gay marriage and abortion, all these things. Generally, we don't. Not now. Maybe in other elections we did. But here's the way I look at it.
Nobody in or around that house is talking about these other issues right now. We are broke. America's not working. We are dying out here. I do not hear politicians talk about gay marriage. I don't hear politicians generally talking about abortion. It's just not front and center. That's the crisis. Thank you. Great question. Yes, sir, in the corner. You. It's like, again, I don't know where you all are politically. Hopefully we're all over the map. But if I were running for governor last year, Bill Brady, the Republican, I don't understand this. Pat Quinn, you talk about a nut. Pat Quinn's our governor. Pat Quinn's our governor. And you talk about the country's house burning down. Illinois is burning down.
It already has.
It already has. You know, you've heard me say this. My office is in Fox Lake. We get calls weekly from companies who want to leave. So here's Pat Quinn. The state is broke. We've got a pension we can't afford, and businesses are leaving. Pat Quinn last summer is running against Bill Brady, and in the summertime, he starts throwing commercials out there attacking Bill Brady for being way too pro-life and way too pro-gun. What does that have to do with anything right now? Excuse me, Governor, the house is burning down. But you know what Bill Brady did? He didn't respond. I would have gone at Pat Quinn with everything I had and said, how dare you?
Brady did? He didn't respond. I would have gone at Pat Quinn with everything I had and said, how dare you? How dare you? You've got businesses leaving this state. We're broke in this state. And you want to talk to me about my stance on abortion? You're not serious. wish Bill Brady had done that. If he had done that, he'd be governor right now. Yes, sir.
Hi, Joe. Thank you for being here today. Let me have 90 seconds, please. One little thing. I friended Occupy Oakland on Facebook because I wanted to see what they do. And what
Occupy Oakland. How did he get in here?
No, listen.
I'm kidding.
Because I wanted to see what they're up to, because someone I cherish lives in Oakland.
What did you find?
One of the things, they want people to be able to move into foreclosed homes and just occupy them, literally. So this is one of their demands.
Squatters?
Squatters, okay. The other thing is I'm going to say is, you all can call me a dreamer, but I really believe in this. Joe, we need to get on the gold standard. Please,
thank you,
get a resolution going to go in that direction. That's the only thing that's going to save the country in the long run. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, let's go. Go ahead, Corey, if you got one. And then I'm going to spread it around. Go ahead, sir, and then I'll go back here.
Morning, I'm Robin McDaniel.
Where are you from?
From Lake Zurich.
Give it up for Lake Zurich! Hey, let the record show Grace Lake got a bigger chair.
If we take a bigger picture look,
yeah,
most of what you guys talk about are symptoms.
Are what? Are what?
Symptoms.
Symptoms. Hold that closer to yourself.
Symptoms of the problem.
Right.
And the problem is not as complex as it seems. It's a trust problem. We used to have bank and trust companies, and now there's hardly any trust in any bank companies. We see the people in New York who are anti-Wall Street. It should be more appropriately to be called anti-Wall Street private casino company. Because what does Wall Street make? What do? They gamble. They have derivatives. They have all kinds of things. And people are not trusting what's going on those kinds of non-productive activities.
Thank you.
We talk about trust in government. We talk about trust in our local officials. We have to figure out a way to regain trust.
Right.
And then, like change. Oh, vote for me for change? Well, if you have vested interest, you don't want change.
Hey, let me stop you. You're exactly right. Grab that mic, Corey. Thank you. Thank you, Robin. Thank you. Hey, look, guys, I know I lost my cool a little bit in Gurney a couple weeks ago. Now the whole world saw Joe Walsh lose his cool.
Showed you're a human.
Yeah, but we agree with
Give a crap about what other people
Yeah,
say.
it's just, I'm no fan of the big banks. I'll say it again. I wouldn't have bailed out the big banks. I'm on the small business committee. I chair a subcommittee. It's the small and community banks I'm worried about because we're losing them every week. The big banks made out like bandits. But they did not cause this problem. Your government and my government for 50 years has made it a policy to say everybody should own a home. Everybody should own a home. Now, first of all, I don't want my government making that determination. If people can afford to buy a home, let them. If they can't, don't. But I don't want my government picking the people that should be in a home. But the government then set out to try to put everybody in a home. And all the market and the banks did was follow the rules that government set. So it's not that. Now look, you talked about, and you made a great point, and you started it, Steve. These guys go to Washington, and then miraculously they come out 10 years later, and they're rich. Look at Rahm Emanuel. Rahm Emanuel left Congress, and within 14 months, I think he made $15, $16 million cutting a couple, lobbying deals. Both sides do it. When I'm done with this,
there is lobbyists. That is one of the biggest problems. Is we have lobbyists and they influence these people because they're the ones that give them the money so they can run for their re-elections. And they have so much power. You look at some of these lobbyist groups and the power that they have, and they influence what goes on, and they're some of the people that are screwing things up in this country. We need to get rid of them.
Hey, how much coffee did you have this morning?
One cup this morning, that was it.
Hey, but Robin, you want to
Pissed
get
off Americans.
You want to get trust back? I'm telling you, it's really pretty easy, slowly but easy. You got to start electing people who are not going to just give you the typical. We're done with that. Let's go back here. I promised this lady right here, Corey. This job is not that much fun. You better be there because you want to make a difference. Yes, ma'am.
My name's Rosemarie Downey.
Where are you from?
And I'm from Motherline, but actually I'm right next door to Wauconda. I'm going right to your point you just said right now. Let's elect people that are going to get this done. But what really gets my goat is that as soon as the elections come, we have campaign dinners. 100,000, 10,000. People are coming in with all kinds of money. We're spending millions on campaigns and people don't have jobs. It's wrong. And that campaign funding has got to be straightened out so that the ordinary Joe who doesn't have $5, $6, $7 million to go and put into the campaign, or who isn't a favorite of somebody, some lobbyist or whatever, can get in there. We've got talented, educated people that are good for the country, but they don't get a chance to be heard simply because of the way this campaign funding has gone, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse.
Do you have a 20-second? Do you have a 20-second reform? What would you do to change it? Anything come to mind?
I think it's got to stop it. I think there's got to be a limit on what they can spend on campaigns, period. And also a time. People should be hearing it. It was one of our founding fathers that said someplace an illiterate population deserves the government that it gets. But when you get socked with these campaigns from the minute that a person is elected and you're listening to the next 4 years, people don't listen anymore. We're fed with the media, we read internet blurbs, and we don't sit and read. I'm a former teacher, this is what I used to tell my kids, because my parents came from a country that was under communist rule, and I was there.
What country?
Slovakia. I was there with the communists. I know what it was like. And when I came back, I told my kids, get on the ground and kiss the ground that you are walking on, because it's the best country in the world no matter what goes on here. I know what it's like when you have a socialist government. And I know what happens when government gets involved. But we need to put a stop on some of this campaign funding.
Thank you. Look, I'll give a very brief answer because this is a subject I love and it takes too long to explain. And most of you won't like my answer. Right now, the only way you can... What I did last year doesn't happen much. I'll be the first to admit that. Right now, to get elected, you got to either be really, really wealthy, or be an incumbent, or be really well connected. The problem is if you're me and you're not wealthy, you need to raise money. You need to raise money as much as you can to get your word out. But we put, and I don't have my own money. There's no limit on what you can put in your own race, which is why we get wealthy people. Because if I had millions, I could put millions in. I don't have millions, so what do I have to do? I have to knock on door after door for $100 or $1,000. The problem is, if you want to get more average Joes who can run, this may not make sense to you. Get rid of the limits. Right now, the most an individual can give me is $2,500. The most my dad can give me is $2,500. So I have to go around and find a lot of those guys. But if I'm wealthy, I can just write myself a $250,000 check. Or if I'm an incumbent, money comes to them. So weirdly, because our politicians put limits on how much I can raise, it's made it harder for me. So my dream campaign finance is this. Get rid of all limits. If you want to give me $100 grand because you think I'm the greatest guy in the world, you should be able to do that. And instantly, instant disclosure. Everybody in my district should know that Steve gave me $100,000. And if they have a problem with that, because they think Steve's going to influence me, who are they going to take that out on? Me. Then don't vote for me. I'm a big gun guy. I think it's an embarrassment that Illinois is the last state standing without procedure. This might drive my MSNBC friends crazy. I'd feel better if there were a few of you packing right in here. But it would be safer. But Steve, so I'm a big gun guy. Do you think gun control groups lobbying groups are going to give me money? No. The NRA, pro-gun groups will give me money. Typically the way it works is all these evil lobbying groups, they're not evil, they give money to guys who already subscribe to what they believe. If you want more average Joes running, get rid of these limits, have instant disclosure. No government funding of elections. We can't afford it, it won't work. Yes, sir, right here.
George from Antioch. You mentioned jobs. Government saying we created these jobs, we created 100,000 jobs. There's a bank on television now that says we pledge 100,000 jobs to returning vets. My question is, where's all these jobs at? I want one of them. And you go out there, they're not there. Everybody talks about it, but nobody produces.
Thanks. Look, I think the biggest, saddest thing about this country right now is America's not working. And our unemployment rate, guys, is not 9.1%.
22.
We know it's higher than that. Most people have given up looking. And this goes to where this president and guys like me just have a much different idea of how you create jobs. Our president genuinely believes that Washington will create jobs. If we somehow, and he spent $1 trillion to try to do this, to stimulate the economy. 3 years later, how stimulated are we feeling? How much did that work? Here's what I believe. The reason we've got no jobs in this country right now is because small businesses, the people who really hire, are getting killed by Washington, so they're not growing and they're not hiring. Regulations are killing them. They're also really scared about what's going on in Washington, and they also, to a man and a woman, don't believe this president is friendly to them. So you know what they're doing? It's like they call the big time out. They're not going to do anything for a year. So my jobs policy is really pretty simple. Get government out of the way. Let the small business guy in Wauconda keep as much of that money as he can keep to grow his business. Don't put regulations on top of him. And you know what? He'll start to hire people.
There's also an agency in Lake County where they would pay you while you're on the job, while you're learning.
Yeah, I know.
Talk to them, government cut our funding.
Yeah, none of that. None of this little Band-Aid stuff is going to work. We work. Government doesn't create jobs. We work. This is why... Maybe I do need that Irish coffee. This is why I say next year is the most important election in the history of this country. There, I'll just say it. It's also a really easy election because the differences are huge. You want jobs? Well, you know what? I told you a month ago we voted in the House to extend that pipeline, that natural gas pipeline from Canada down to Texas. Instantly 20 to 30,000 jobs. Over the course of a year or two, could create another 100 to 2,000 jobs. What did this president do? Basically just said, nope, not going to go anywhere.
Why?
A whole other issue. We should be drilling. We should open up this country and let us work. But this president truly believes that he can dictate from there what goes on. He knows better. And he can tell businesses out here how to create jobs. It's wrong. It's not America. I'm not going to say it's anti-American. It's not who this country is. Yes, sir.
Joe, there's a number of things regarding jobs.
Corey, you're going to lose a few pounds today. Over here. Yes, sir.
Mark from Barrington.
Mark from Barrington. I grew up in Barrington. Give it up.
Number of things on jobs, and maybe you fellas have already thought about it. My son's a research guy at Intel, Oregon, and I know from my own personal business, you've got a lot of people here on H-1 visas. Companies love it because they have no benefits, they have control over them, and if they don't like what they do or whatever, they just dump them and send them back. We got a lot of people unemployed, good jobs, not the nickel and dime jobs. We had the great sucking sound with NAFTA. Get rid of it. Gas, all these trade things. force the companies to start producing here. Right now, I believe, and don't hold me to the exact number, corporations are holding offshore somewhere around $1 trillion in profits, negotiating with our Congress to bring the money back at, what, 5% like they did the last time? We talk about budget deficits and all these problems, and yet we don't really attack the real problems.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Look, we're never going to go back, and I don't know, Mark, what you would advise when it comes to free trade.
Fair trade, Joe.
Well, okay, fair trade, but just so we understand each other, you never want to live in a country where your government can force a company to stay here, right?
No.
Okay.
We don't need to subsidize. You need to make them friendly and not subsidize.
Right. We certainly, as a government, don't want to make it easy for companies to go abroad. But I would argue that, in general, free trade is good for all of us. I hear you on fair trade. Our government has made it real tough, though, guys, to do business here. We tax the heck out of businesses. We regulate the heck out of businesses. Our corporate tax rate is higher than I think any civilized countries but one. You can't do that, and then because companies then are going to look to move elsewhere. Guys, look at Illinois. Illinois is a microcosm of America. Why do businesses want to leave? Because this is such a great place to do business? No! No! Because it's one of the most business unfriendly states in the country. All I want my government doing is make it really easy to stay here. Keep my taxes low, don't overregulate me, let me compete. We're not letting our companies compete. Yeah, there is a lot of money that's sitting overseas right now that companies can't bring back. You know why? Because right now we tax that money at about a 35% rate. So it stays over there. Get rid of that tax. Let them bring that money home permanently. And that will translate into growth, investment, and jobs. It's right now it's an upside down world. But this is not by accident, folks. Okay? If I had the president here with me right now, probably the last place he'd want to be, and he were really honest with us, this is not by accident. He's got a mindset. He doesn't believe what I'm telling you right now. That's okay. That's okay. Now, the funny thing is, we elected him 3 years ago, not really knowing a darn thing about who he was and what he thought. The nice thing about this country is now, we know what he is, we know what he thinks. He's got a record. That's why this will be an easy election. Let's go all the way in the back, Corey. All the way in the back.
I'm self-employed. Hey, Joe, I'm self-employed. We get killed. We get killed with that.
Paul Fletcher. I'm with up in McHenry.
I live in McHenry. Give it up for McHenry. Go ahead, Paul.
I appreciate what you're saying about, how as a group, both my generation, my parents' generation, have allowed people to walk into office and not do anything and just keep getting reelected. But we keep hearing both sides saying, we'll step up and we'll reach across the aisle and we'll do something. Just saying no to any legislation does not make you a good statesman, doesn't make you a good congressman.
Thank you.
And we need guys that are going to reach across the aisle, like a certain senator from Massachusetts who everyone respected because even when he didn't get everything he wanted, he would at least negotiate with the other side and try to get things passed. I think what a lot of people are pissed off about is nothing is getting passed. Nothing is getting done. We're sitting on our hands. We're not getting any legislation passed because, oh my God, it might make this president look good or it might make this guy look good.
Great point, great point. Thank you, Paul, thank you. Let me respond, because this is one of the most important points. I will acknowledge I am probably not everyone's cup of tea. I did not go to Washington to be a statesman. And so, Paul, you're right. Look, if you're looking for a statesman to elect, Walsh is not your guy. I truly believe, agree or disagree, that every single thing this president, and Paul, you can disagree with me, everything this president has done, his policies, are destroying what makes this country great. You know what? Hold on. Well, no, hold on.
Name a few.
Hold on. Stop. A little bit of hyperbole. Let me pull it back a little bit. But hold on a minute. You can't say false or true. It's just one man's opinion. You can disagree with my opinion. There's no false or true opinion.
That's the difference. You're representing all of us.
And if you don't like what I'm doing, what are you going to do in a year?
Run against him.
That's what you should do. That's what you should do. Now let me finish the answer. Here's my take, Paul. The differences between what this president believes and what Joe Walsh believes are so great that any reaching across the aisle with him right now will do no good. I believe, again, this may not be all of you. I believe we're at the beginning of this revolution to fight for what this country is. It's the beginning of this revolution. Remember, this president got elected 3 years ago. He had all Democrats in Washington. They did some things. Not a lot of reaching across the aisle. They did things, Paul, they believed in. And that's fair. They won the election. But then you send me to Washington, who came there, and I've looked at everything he's done, and I've said, oh my God, that's not good. And I thought people sent us to Washington to stop what he's done. So I don't want to do more of the same with him. You may not like this answer, Paul, and nobody in this room may like this answer. But if you're expecting a lot to happen in Washington in the next year, you're going to be disappointed. Period. Elections matter. You don't, again, you want to try to be respectful, but I didn't go to his job speech. He called the State of the Union joint session of Congress, had a big job speech, announced another jobs plan. I don't want to get into why I didn't go, but he simply put out more of the same. Now, if you're like me and you believe that when it came to jobs, all his stimulus stuff didn't work, why would you want to compromise and do more of the same? I would rather say respectfully, Mr. President, I don't think Washington creates jobs. I'm not going to borrow any more government money for stimulus or infrastructure. So what we're going to do, Mr. President, is this is what we want to do. If you can find some things you agree with, fine. Otherwise, we're going to go to the American people and we're going to have an election.
You lost PR battle.
No, you know, well...
The people are against you.
Stop. You know what, though? You know what? I'm not in this for the PR battle. I'm not in this for the PR battle.
We need somebody who doesn't know once in a while.
Go ahead.
You have a bunch of, the Congress has passed a bunch of bills.
Yes.
Obama came on the thing yesterday and said, you never passed the budget, you never did anything on the deficit. Why don't you sit down and put all the bills that you sent to the Senate and never got passed?
You're right.
Why don't you say, here's all the bills we sent, here's what got passed? Nothing. Here's what we did send that got passed.
Yeah. How many people know Republicans in the House have passed 22 jobs bills? Raise your hand. Most people don't know. How many people know that the Senate has not passed the budget in 930 days? How many people know that? Again, maybe most of the people know that. I agree with you, sir.
We're political people. We listen to all this stuff. We watch 3 or 4 programs a day. Listen to radio.
Can we move on, Joe?
Yes.
Can we move on?
Yeah.
Please. People that don't listen, they think you're doing nothing, and Obama is winning, I'm telling you. On the opinion poll yesterday that said like 70% of the people thought Republicans was their fault.
Hey, we will find out. We will find out. I tend to believe that there's, again, and I could be dead wrong, I tend to believe there's a silent majority of people in this country that has wised up.
Yes.
And look, here's the truth about politics. You talk about elections, here's the truth. 35% of the people in this country will vote for the Republican candidate for president, even if that candidate's not breathing. 35% of the Democrats are going to vote for a Democrat, even if that guy's not breathing. The people in the middle tend to decide elections. And what polls are telling us right now is, when it comes to people in the middle, on these issues like Obamacare, trade, drilling, taxes, you name it, on most issues, the president has lost the people in the middle. And if you look at what the president's doing, he's trying to get folks on his side revved up. Again, I could be dead wrong. I know that it's hard to win the PR battle when you've got a president who's got the bully pulpit. But I guess, well, Andy's got a media that's going to protect him till the cows come home. But have faith. Have faith. I have faith in the American people that we're wising up. I really believe that. Yes, ma'am. And then, sir, then I'll come to you.
I came because I'm the mom of a daughter with a chronic illness.
Hold that closer to you.
She was diagnosed a year ago with type 1 diabetes, and I'm very concerned about what her future could look like with Obamacare. I don't know what most of you know. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease where the immune system attacks the pancreatic cells. We are constantly battling 24 hours a day to keep her blood sugar levels where they are and to avoid complications. About 3 months ago, we switched her over to an insulin pump rather than shots. Because of puberty, we were up to 8 shots a day. Insulin pumps are expensive. They run about $6,000. We have insurance. Our insurance paid it. We don't expect the government to pay for our child. But the expenses with this disease are a lot, and we are now paying taxes on my husband's health insurance coverage, and we're also losing the flex plan benefit. That hurts. I'm also concerned as a mom that to read on the diabetic forums that in Australia, insulin pumps are not covered by their national health care. In Britain, continuous glucose monitors are not covered by their national health care. I'm concerned that we're going to lose some of the greatest developments coming out in the care that help avoid the complications that will be costly because the immediate line is cheaper and not looking at the long term. Right now, I'm reading that my daughter tests her blood about 10 times a day, and Medicare right now pays for 3 test strips a day to test the blood. That's once before each meal. That leaves none for those. That leaves none for overnight when comas can occur. And now health care for kids, or for adults with type 1 diabetes, is only wanting to pay for 3 strips a day. That's not enough. And insurance plans are starting to copy Medicare. I'm very concerned about my daughter's future.
You should be. Thank you. I've got a doctor in the audience. How would you respond to her daughter's plight? How are we going to take care of kids like that?
I'm a family practice doctor in the Lake Zurich area. My name's Rick Bianchi. And I couldn't agree with you more about the concern. And what I would say, is what you're speaking to is the fact is that we are transferring the power where we decide between patient and physician. That autonomy we are taking away and giving it to a government body. And you have to recognize the government body is looking at the populace as a whole. Is it cost effective? That's what it's about. If you've got very few individuals compared to the population as a whole that has type 1 diabetes, that needs all this type of care, maybe it's not cost effective. So to let them succumb to the complications, whatever have you, may be best for the populace, but not really best for the patient. Why is that happening? Because we, as a people, have decided to give that power to our government, where it belongs in the domain of the patient and the physician. Now, to be sympathetic to that, though, we can't expect it all for nothing. We have to continually understand that we have a financial responsibility to that. And we need to make the right type of policies and decisions that enable you to do that but at the same time retain that autonomy and power. And when you make both the physician and the patient powerless to the government and insurance companies, we lose that. And that is exactly what is on the board right now for Medicare. Because what's happening with Medicare is they want to make a 30% across-the-board cut. How are they going to deliver care? They're going to do that by giving Medicare dollars to hospital entities that all Medicare patients will align with, called ACOs. They're like HMOs on steroids. They control all the monies up front for services promised, not for services rendered. They get paid ahead of time, and they're accountable to take care of people. So if they feel it's not cost effective to buy a pump, to pay for a hip, to do an MRI, it's not cost effective. They have to show a profit. And that's scary because, again, we are giving it to the government to decide, then giving it to entities to run the money, and the patient and the physician are powerless. So that's what we all have to understand and keep in mind. We need to keep that power. Thank you, guys.
I will just add this. We have got to begin to get to a place in this country where most of us are putting more into our own health care. And our government, again, as we discussed, is there for the folks that truly need it. It's the last resort. It's the safety net. But we now live in a country where we want somebody to pay for all of our health care. Our government, our employer, our private insurance. We can't sustain it. And the last thing you want to do is go to government-run health care because, as our doctor said, then you're out of it. Then you're out of it. Then it will lead to rationing. It will lead to you having no relationship with your physician. Tort reform is something that there are a lot of reforms that would help. Tort reform would help. Letting people buy insurance across state lines would help. Health savings accounts, where we are more in charge of our own health care costs, would help. The problem is this president truly believes in universal government-run health care. Obamacare was the first step down that road. It needs to be repealed. We need to start over.
Yes.
All the way at the back.
Clarify this for me. 2 years ago, I had a great job.
$1,000 a year. I had an illness that hit my head. I couldn't work. I got fired from work even though I should have. I had insurance for a while. I was paying the hell out of my insurance. I had surgery. I can't work. They won't let me work. I've been in trouble. I can't get a new job. I don't have any more insurance. I need to have that insurance to do another surgery before I can work. Who's going to help me? Can the government help me? They ain't doing a damn thing right now to help me.
Again, two quickies. That's where our government should help when it comes to your particular situation. Make sure I got your info before you leave. Let's see what can be done. Promise me something? Promise me that? Who's here? Aaron. Aaron, make sure we get his info.
Thank you. Questions? Yes, sir. You there, and then I'll go here. Right here at the table. Corey. Hey, guys, nobody can leave till 5. We're going, it's fine. We're doing well.
Thank you, my name's Jim from Antioch. I got two things that are kind of connected together, and I'd like your response to it.
Yeah.
One, too much debt is bad. I mean, it's bad for anybody. It's bad for that fictional Wauconda family and so forth, right? It's bad for the government. The formula for getting out of debt is to decrease your spending, increase your income, right? Anybody, right? Now here's my issue. The Tea Party Republicans seem to be blind to that reality because I read so much they won't vote for anything where there's a tax increase. Because the Grover Norquist thing, I won't vote for anything that includes a tax increase. Now, you paint yourself, you say you don't follow the crowd in Washington, But you are also listed by a number of, as being a Tea Party Republican and part of the Republican caucus.
Yeah.
So could you explain?
Yeah.
It seems to be a contradiction.
Yes. I typically say, I've said the following, and it doesn't always make people in my party happy. I'm a Tea Party conservative first and a Republican second. And if you want me, I'll explain that later if you'd like me to. Look, here's the deal. Republicans run away from this revenue issue. That family making 21 grand and spending 36 or 7 grand, how are they going to balance their books? They got to cut spending, but they also got to try to make more. So government needs to bring in more. The problem is, guys like me have a much different idea of how to bring more money in than the Democrats do. I don't think you bring revenues in, especially long-term, if you increase taxes. I would rather cut taxes and let the economy grow and create more taxpayers. I think that's how ultimately you grow revenue. I'd rather grow the economy. And if you pile more taxes now on top of businesses and individuals, you're gonna just put a foot on economic growth. Like Illinois. So if you want, and it bothers me that Republicans run away from this revenue issue. Heck yeah, we need more revenues. But don't be afraid to say it. You get more revenues when you get government off of the back of the economy, i.e., cut taxes, cut regulations, let the economy grow, and there'll be more taxpayers, i.e., more government revenues.
What tax cuts?
Oh my God, I'd cut those tax rates. I'd take the Bush tax rates and I'd cut them even further. And again, this goes to, and then I'll come back. I'm going to go here and here. But I got to make a real important 1-minute point. And you will not all agree with this. This is the way we got to put it. Here's my biggest beef with this president and with the Democrats and with some Republicans. In my America, I make $1, okay? I get to keep most of that dollar. I just believe it's my money, but I also think it's a good thing for society if I get to keep it. I know there's got to be some government, so let's say that I give the government 10% of that, but I get to keep 90 cents of my dollar. Now, that's my money. I get to take care of my family. I get to start a business. I take care of my parents when they get older. I take care of my health care. My kids' health care, that's my dollar. I take care of my community. I contribute to whatever charity I want to contribute to. That's my America. I think it's a better America. This president's America is this. You make $1, you're going to give the government 50, 60 cents of that dollar. And then the government will take care of your health care. The government will help create jobs. The government will do all these other things. I don't think that works. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair. But that's the difference right now, folks, in our country. And wherever you are on that, pick whatever side you're on and work hard for it. So yes, sir, respectfully, when it comes to revenues, I want revenues, but we create those. I don't want the government taking that money. Yes, ma'am.
Karen Gassero. I have 2 issues. You and I have met a couple of times, and I've been trying to get back to meet with you for several months, and disappointingly, no one from your office calls me back to set an appointment.
Okay.
When I voted for you, you promised to make change to the status quo, and so far, I'm beginning to think that, you're just talking the talk and not walking the walk.
Wow, if that's the case, then we're in real trouble.
Okay, now so let me just finish.
Quickly, and I do not
mortgage rates are at their lowest, okay?
Yes.
I would like to take a poll in this room. How many in this room would like to refinance your house at a lower rate, but you can't because you're unemployed or underemployed? If you are, raise your hand. Because that is our situation, and I've come to you 14 months ago
and I've gone to my bank and I've said my husband has lost his job. I can't afford to make the mortgage payment. Can you lower the interest rate? I don't want money out. I don't want reduce the principal. Just let the mortgage rate be reduced so I can pay the mortgage every month. They have told me the only way they're going to help me is if I'm in foreclosure. Why do we have to be forced to go into foreclosure and risk losing our homes before they'll help us?
Let me ask you a simple question, because I don't want you going on for too long.
Okay.
What would you, if you were in government, what would you advise your government should do in a situation like this for people?
I would say that the programs that they just announced a couple weeks ago are not targeted for people.
I know, so forget those programs.
Lower my interest rate. That's what I want you to do.
You want your government...
I don't want the government. I want the banks to...
But who's going to... No, that's too easy, though. But what if the banks don't want to lower their interest rate?
Then they want us all to go into foreclosure.
No, stop. But I love you to death, but you're missing the point. What do you want government to do if banks won't lower the interest rate? Is there anything?
I don't know. Is there? You tell me. You're the one in Congress. I'm coming to you for help.
Well, I know, but I'm trying to get you to think as a policy. Do we want to be in a position, it's an interesting thought, where our government determines the interest rate?
No, but the interest rate is the lowest it's been since 1972. 90% of the people in this country can't take advantage of those low rates because they're unemployed, underemployed, and they can't qualify for the loans that the government, the banks won't give us. The government bailed out the banks, and now they won't loan money.
Absolutely. The government's already done things that
and they're discriminating against me. If I was a brand new customer to Wells Fargo, and I came to them, and my husband had a job, and I had a job, and we could qualify for the mortgage, they would give me the mortgage at the lower rate. But now, because I'm a good risk, I've paid the mortgage on time every month for 14 years, and now I can't because of a 60% loss of income. They're telling me too bad. Lose the house, go into foreclosure.
Thank you. Let me stop.
Okay, but I have one other thing too.
Quickly.
Second point I want to make is student loans. The Department of Education is charging my kids and me 8.5% on a student loan when the current rates are going for 4%. We need to change that. The kids are crippled. They can't make these payments.
Sign up for it.
Let them go to work.
Yeah, they can't get jobs. They can't pay them, they can't get work.
Okay, couple quick points. And again, you've come to us on your specific situation. And it sounds like we haven't done as strong a job as we can try to do helping you with your specific situation. Hold on. No, stop though for a minute. Listen to me. Okay? There are so many problems in this country. And we all are going through the ringer. I agree. You, me, a lot of us. And we got to do the best we can to get help wherever we can get on our specific situations. But then we got to step above, and we got to say, what, if anything, do we want our government doing? And I know, I'll speak for myself, I don't want to live in a country where our government tells banks what they have to do. I didn't want to live in a country where our government bailed out big banks. So I certainly don't want our government telling Bank of America, this is what your interest rate has to be. And I don't think you do either. But, understand, part of the problem is, it's this upside-down world we're living in. We're rewarding people who are underwater on their mortgage. We reward people who don't make payments. We reward people who, look, I'm going to have a tough vote in a month. I'm going to have to vote on whether we extend unemployment insurance. We reward people who have been out of work when there are people who get a second, a third, and a fourth job to continue to make ends meet. We can't take care of everybody, and we certainly shouldn't reward
bad behavior.
Exactly.
I'm not talking about you.
But that's my whole point.
I'm
a good behavior.
I know that.
I work 3 jobs to do so.
I know that. I know that.
I'm penalized by the guys who don't pay their mortgage, get out of their houses, they don't have to pay it anymore.
Behind you.
And the guys,
I agree with you.
the guys that don't need help are the ones
I know that. I know that.
Okay, one more point. I'm sorry, but you won't talk to me in private, so I'm going to have to do it in public. There are thousands of people like me, who would have more money, discretionary money, who could pay their ComEd bill, who could pay their electricity, who could pay their gas bill, but they're strapped with the mortgage payment, trying to hang on to the one tangible thing they've worked their entire life for.
Hey, ma'am. I agree.
That would stimulate the economy, wouldn't it?
I agree. But again, I suppose that I can. No, I don't want to say that. I hear you, but I'm trying to figure out, as a freshman in Congress, what Congress can do, because I'm opposed to a lot of what government has already done when it comes to the housing industry. When it comes to you and your specific situation, again, would love to talk to you and would love to have the staff talk to you. If you're disappointed with what we've done and you think it's a dead end, then don't sit with me. I'd love to give you some more time and see what we can do, okay?
Thank you. But
Thank
point
you.
is, if I don't,
You've made your point and I love it. You've made your point and I love it. But understand, lots of us are struggling.
I agree.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, then I'm coming here. Thank you. Thanks. Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm addressing this to people of faith. We know from our history classes in junior high, high school, that our country was formed by people who believed in God. And they prayed for the government that it run according to God's will. And many of our founding fathers were people of faith, and they prayed in Congress. The people prayed for their leaders, starting with the president, George Washington, any of them. And I believe that we need people of faith, okay? We need to pray for our Congressman, Joe Walsh, our senators, at all levels of government. We need to pray.
Hey, keep it respectful.
I'm not saying that we pray and do nothing. We pray and we work. We pray and we go on. We take care of our families. We do whatever we can to make a difference in this world, okay? And another thing.
Quickly?
We talk about that we don't have enough revenue. Well, maybe, perhaps, if we did not abort babies, wait a minute, if we did not abort babies.
Respect every opinion in here, please. Come on.
If we did not abort babies since Roe versus Wade or even before, over 50 million babies have been aborted. Maybe those children would have grown up and contributed to the system.
Thank you. Come on. That's enough.
And that's all.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Corey, we're going to go all the way back here. Respect every single opinion. Don't agree with it, but respect it. All the way in the back. Right there.
Joe, earlier you described the Occupy Wall Street movement as wanting bigger government, and I have been watching Occupy Wall Street.
Tell me what you think they want.
I'm going to actually read it to you off the OccupyWallStreet.org website.
Okay.
It says, Occupy Wall Street is fighting back against the corrosive power of major banks and multinational corporations over the democratic process, and the role of Wall Street is in creating an economic collapse that has caused the greatest recession in generations, and aims to expose how the richest 1% of people are writing the rules of an unfair global economy that is foreclosing on our future. I hate to say it, but the banks and these corporations have bought our government.
But stop, let me stop you. I listened to just what you said, but then what's the action plan? What do you think they want government to do? They've got hold on.
I think they need to break. I think these companies have gotten too big.
Okay,
they need to be broken up. They've gotten too much powerful. We need to end lobbying in the government.
So hold on. Okay, so one thing, Occupy Wall Street says end all lobbying. So that means teachers' unions can't lobby.
Yeah, absolutely.
No
lobbying at all.
No lobbying on any side.
Occupy K Street. How about that?
Okay, hold on. So that's Occupy Wall Street. No interest group can lobby. Okay, what else do they want? Anything else?
That's against the Constitution anyway.
I know that. But what? See what?
They want to end corporate greed.
All right. I will write a bill tomorrow that will end corporate greed. But how do you do that? How do you do that? How does your government and incorporate free. How?
You make these companies smaller.
Hold on. Dino, do you know how we would do that?
Nick, I do actually, because I want to amend what he said. Corporations have not bought the government. The government, by the people that we elected, have sold themselves to corporations.
Yes, because it's more profitable for them. Yeah, okay, whatever.
But again,
I think you made your point. May I make mine?
Dino, go.
Or do I need your permission?
No, hey.
Thank you.
Dino, shush.
Okay, so the way you make corporations, the way you begin to make corporations smaller is by making government smaller. You begin with government.
Right.
You make that smaller because anything big is destined to fail. And this government is way too big.
It's gotten so damn big, and these people that are at the head of these corporations that are making
you eliminate
billions of dollars.
You eliminate 3 to 5 departments that haven't met their
People have the money to get the lobbyists to go influence these politicians in Washington to do what they want.
Let's stop. Steve.
And that's one of the problems.
Dino, okay, all right, I'm going to go, hold on. I'm going to go here, and then I've got about a 55.
Easy question.
What? I'm going to go here and then there.
Eric Holder, Fast and Furious, the arrogance of our Congress giving away money. Solyndra, can we expect grand jury hearings in 2012?
Yeah,
after
right.
we get a Republican president? Can we expect it?
Have you seen anybody that causes problems arrested and being charged?
No. When we have a Republican
Over there.
president.
Hey, I hope so. Hey, by the way, I sent a letter to the president last week. 42 other members of Congress signed it, asking the president to ask Eric Holder to resign. Go.
Put him in jail.
Thanks for the time, Joe. Jeff Lockhart, Wauconda.
Jeff.
2 words I want to speak to. Accountability and apathy. We saw a cultural change in this country when the veterans came home from Vietnam. And a generation of people stood up and said never again. And thankfully we went through that change, as painful as it was. When I look around the room today, you see representatives of different generations. And when I look at generations at my age and younger, we're no longer living in an age of accountability. We live in an age where we expect people to take care of us. We expect people to hand us things. And it's always someone else's fault. You know what? If I'm in a tax bracket where they want to raise my taxes, I'll gladly do it if everyone wants to share this hardship. I'm dying to see a president get elected that says at the end of 4 years, none of you will vote for me because I'm going to cut something that each of you care about. And I also want to address the issue of apathy. Because everything we've talked about today demands votes to change. It demands different people in office. Unfortunately, I truly believe that my generation and younger gets their news from headlines. They believe The Daily Show is an accurate representation of current events in America. My question, Joe, is do people in Washington fear that lack of accountability and apathy in this country have doomed us to a destination ahead? Because if they don't feel that way, nothing we're going to do is going to change the course.
Everybody in this room, everybody in this restaurant today should be very afraid, constructively, but very afraid with where we are as a country. I think that Republicans, I'm a Republican, Republicans tend to do a lousy job of selling what they believe in. And when we argue with the president and we argue about unemployment or like guns are a great one. We argue about how concealed carry, actually I can give you the statistics, the studies that shows it works, and we know it does. Instead of just saying, you know what, that's my constitutional right. We Republicans want to get down in the weeds and argue stats. And the problem is, with certain generations and certain Americans, we lose you. We're going through something right now where I think the very definition of the American dream is at risk. Our founders believed the American dream was all based on political and economic liberty. And it goes back to what I said about 10 minutes ago. In the Founders' America, listen up, you guys. In the Founders' America, you know, that money that you make, that's yours. This thing called government, it does a little bit, but just a little bit. Generally, we get to live our lives in freedom. We get to succeed or fall on our face, but we're free to do that. We get to buy a home, and oops, we may lose a home. But we're free to do that. And when things happen, there's not somebody bailing us out. We, our families, our churches, our communities take care of us. That's the American dream. And that's what we're so close to losing, because there's another American dream that sort of started 80, 90, 100 years ago with FDR and the New Deal, where we all buy into this thing, let's all give our money to government, and government's going to give us free college, and we'll all make 20 bucks an hour, and we'll all have $300,000 homes, and we'll all have the greatest health care in the world. A, it can't work, and B, it's not free. Nothing is free. And I don't expect everybody to understand that, because the Democrats have a much easier message to sell. Boy, would I love to be a liberal Democrat. I would walk around all day and say, hey, you want to go to college for nothing? I'm going to give it to you. Hey, free health care? I'll give you a free hip, free knee, everything. Somebody will pay for it. Don't worry about it. You lost your home? Nah, we'll all chip in. We'll make government take care of it for you. What a great thing to be able to say, right? I'll take care of you.
It is true.
That is the battle of where this country is at right now. It is the collision, as you put it perfectly, of a couple American dreams. And I'd rather live in a country where there's freedom and I'm free to succeed or fall. That's what we're fighting about. And I want to make an important point here. Don't demonize either side. We tend to do that too much. We tend to think... hold on a minute. We tend to think...
You're lambasting Democrats. You're doing exactly what you say you're not supposed to do.
Do me a favor. Listen to what I'm going to say. Listen to what I'm going to say. I believe that both Republicans... Let me ask you a question. Do you think both Republicans and Democrats want us to have great health care? Yes or no?
No.
You don't?
No.
Okay, do you think...
Because you simply think deregulating insurance is going to suddenly make competition?
No, let me ask you another question. Hold on a minute. You're asking... Wait, Paul. Hey, this is very instructive. Listen. I'm going to repeat the question. We may disagree on how to get it, but do you fundamentally believe Republicans don't want us to have a good healthcare system? Yes or no?
I don't think they care.
Okay, stop. So you don't think they care?
Yeah.
Let me ask you another question.
Leave it to somebody else.
Okay. So Republicans don't want us to have the best health care in the world, right? Okay, they don't care. Do you think Republicans want us to have the best schools in the world? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, no.
They don't want the government to be involved in that either.
Okay, stop. No, hey, listen to the point she made, because that's the cogent point. Listen to what she said. Here's the only way, Paul, and everybody, I'd correct you. Listen. I'm going to go back to my role as a teacher here. I believe both Republicans and Democrats want us to have the best healthcare system in the world. I believe both Republicans and Democrats want us to have the best schools in the world. This one may be crazy, but I believe both Republicans and Democrats want everybody to be out there working. What we fight about is what we want government doing to help us get there. So, Paul, I want us to have the best healthcare system in the world. I just want the government involvement to be like that. Democrats want us to have the best healthcare system in the world. They want the government's involvement to be like that. We just have a different idea on how to get the best healthcare system. And I'll tell you, let's close with this point. If you're going to be an uninformed Republican or an uninformed Democrat, and believe that the other side doesn't want what's best for this country, I feel sorry for you. I'm in Congress every week, and there are some times when I can't believe some of the things my Democratic colleagues say. I want to pull my hair out. But never, ever, ever do I believe that Nancy Pelosi or Jesse Jackson or even Jan Schakowsky don't want what's best for this country. I do believe they want what's best for this country. They just have a much different way of getting it than Joe Walsh. That's all. So do not just watch MSNBC. For all the rest of you, don't just watch Fox. If you only listen to people who agree with you, you will become stupid. Listen to both sides. Last point I'll make. Your country right now, our country right now is teetering. We are on the precipice of falling. If you are going to be so uninformed and so political that you think those Republicans are bad guys or those Democrats are bad guys, we will not save this country. Every elected official in Washington, I don't care what their party is, they want what's best for this country. President, that's my opinion, that may not be yours. President Obama, who I disagree with every single day, wants what's best for this country. He has a much different idea than Joe Walsh about how you get that. And it goes to what you said. My American dream is I am free to go out there and make a life. I need a little bit of government just to make sure my streets are safe, I'm defended overseas, my borders are secure, maybe a couple other things, but then it's my life. That's the American dream. The other side, the other American dream is I'm going to give up my freedom and I'm going to have a bigger government. And government will take care of everything. That's what this fight is about. God bless you. Thanks for coming.